This is an Eye on Annapolis bonus podcast.
Well, I'll tell you, I guarantee that you know today's guest, maybe not as a solo artist, but certainly as a duo. He is a Grammy-nominated artist with a handful of triple platinum and gold records. I'm going to say he's probably the OG when it comes to yacht rock, and I want to welcome John Ford Coley. How are you?
I'm terrific. How are you today?
Man, I'll tell you, well, first things first, you are coming to Annapolis, and your show is Thursday, November 14th. I did just check, and there are still tickets left, so you can get them at ramsheadonstage.com. I do encourage everybody to do so because this sounds like it's going to be a good show. I mean, I loved your stuff from way back when, and I can't wait to hear it on the 14th, man.
Well, we joke and laugh a lot. That's what I do. I tell a lot of stories. I play a lot of music, so you're going to hear what you call the hits, going down memory lane sort of a thing. But then again, play a couple of new songs, maybe something from, Dan Fogelberg or something like that. And we're just like sitting around the campfire, punching one another on the arm, just swapping lies, The only thing that's missing is cigars. So it's a fun time. It really is.
I'll talk to Ramshead, see if we can't get some cigars in there.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll see how that works. Well, it's funny you say you sit there and you laugh an awful lot, and I'll tell you, we are recording this on Election Day, so I can guarantee you that on the 14th, we could probably all use some laughs, if not a sigh that this is all over with.
I'm thinking maybe tomorrow, We're going to definitely need that tomorrow.
Well, I'm glad that you're going to be bringing some of your older stuff like Nights Are Forever, and I guess I really love to see you tonight. And, you've got such a long storied career. I mean, you've been doing this since the 70s, and you've kind of seen it all.
We have had a very wonderful time doing all this. The things that we've gotten to do, the people we've gotten to rub shoulders with and be associated with. It's just like the other night, a friend of mine that we've been close for like 15 years. We talk a couple of times a month and text all the time. She asked me to come out to L.A. and play with her. She was playing her last date at the Whiskey where she began. And that was Cherie Currie from the Runaways.
Yeah.
So you mentioned I'd really love to see you tonight, and I'm just laughing my butt off over here because the other night Cherie and I were singing that song in Los Angeles at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and I thought, God, how often does something like that happen, or you get to be associated with somebody like that? I'm sitting there the whole time going, dang, man, I'm singing with Cherie Currie. Dang, how cool is that?
That is pretty cool. Through your career, you've played some little itty bitty venues, and I imagine back in '72 when you were starting, you probably had those small rooms where like mom was in the back seat going, yay, 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 and to to stadiums and everything else. What do you as an artist prefer? Do you prefer a smaller, intimate room, or had it changed over your career?
Yeah, I prefer the smaller rooms. Anything, definitely under 1,000, but I love 500 seats, 250 seats, because again, you can be intimate, you can joke, you can laugh. There's an opportunity if somebody does have a question they'd like to have answered about that time period. I tell them, just raise your hand, man, just shout it out, and I'll tell you the most elaborate lie you've ever heard in your life about what happened.
Well, that's what music's all about. It's all about storytelling.
It is. It really is.
I was reading an interview with you, and I've got to ask, are you going to be singing your biggest hit, Margaritaville, a little bit later?
Gosh, you rascal. No. It's like people, I get mistaken for him quite often. And every time somebody says, well, Jimmy Buffett, my mind goes, why couldn't it have been Sam Elliott? Why couldn't I have looked like, Robert Redford when he was young? Gosh, come on. But Sonny Bono and Jimmy Buffett, God.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny. You've I guess, England Dan and John Ford Coley really, came on the scene, what was it, back in like 1976 or so?
That was when we hit with Really Love to See It Tonight. We actually had a long career prior to that. As a matter of fact, Dan and I started out on what's called the Hip label, and it was part of Stax Records. And we were on the white division. And the other night, a guy came up to me when I was playing with Cherie, and he said, "You remember a group called the Nobody Else?" And I said, You mean the guys that became Black Oak, Arkansas, that were on the Hip label with Dan and I back in 1969? You went, oh my goodness, you remember them? It's like, heck yeah, I remember them. So yeah, I mean, it's great to be able to have that association with people and think about where you've been, what you were doing.
You know, a lot has changed since way back then, man. I say, I'm just curious, what's your rider look like now versus 1976?
My rider is so simple. I tell people I'm the simplest guy in the world. Give me a couple of Dr. Peppers or Cokes and a thing of beef jerky, and I'm good. That's all I need.
The simple things in life make it worthwhile.
Oh, well, you know, it's so funny because they get these elaborate trays out there, you know, ham and cheese, and I'm not going to eat all that stuff, especially because I've gotten older. So you don't eat before the show because it sits in the middle of your stomach and it laughs at you and says, go ahead, try to breathe. I dare you. Go ahead. You know, so you wait until you get off stage and then you eat. Well, I know that I was thinking about doing a follow-up to the book Backstage Pass that I did. It's going to be Backstage Pass 2, The Roadies Ate All the Food.
Well, you can't do it without the roadies, that's for sure.
Oh, gosh, you know, I love the roadies. I love the roadies. They keep things working in an order. I mean, because we get there, we're so focused on going out and playing. And you don't want to talk to anyone before you go on because you're focused, you know, and then they inevitably will schedule a meet and greet and everybody wants to ask you about this and that. And you're just trying to focus.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, you've played professionally in, well, now I learned the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, aughts, 10s, and now 20s.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite decade?
The 70s definitely were terrific. And also the 60s, because we were young. It was new. Everything was new. We hadn't been any place. We're having the opportunity to open for all of these bands that we admired or people that we hadn't heard of, but we definitely became aware of. And it was just new. It was exciting. Now we're kind of retracing our steps. You know, I watch these bands get up and play, and it's like, man, be a little bit more original. We were doing that in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, you know, one thing I love about when you get a band that's been around for a long time that comes in here is that it's real, it's raw, and I mean, you're going. It's not auto-tuned. It's not. You don't have the backing tracks. You don't have all of the production that comes in it, because most people just don't like that. I mean, and that's what I really prefer is when I sit there. If you came in and just, you know, played exactly like it sounds on your album, I'll be like, yeah, I could have bought that for, you know, $15 at the vinyl store.
Absolutely. And the other element to that is the fact that many of the rock bands cannot talk. So therefore, when they get up on stage, they play song after song after song. You might hear, hello, Dallas, hello, you know, Washington, D.C. You might hear, yeah, this next song is, and that's about it. So for people like me, you know, we're storytellers. We just like to get up and communicate with the audience. That, to me, is what I find enjoyable.
Fantastic. Well, you know, you said 70s was probably your sweet spot as far as your favorite decade. What about which decade for hairstyles?
Oh, man, that'd have to be the 60s. But you know why? You know why? Because most of us had hair during that time. It's I mean, I'm fond of saying, yes, I remember the days when our hair was thick and our waist was thin instead of the other way around.
We're all living it. We're all living it.
We were having a good time. Are you kidding? And the girls were really pretty. I mean, you know, it's so ironic now because you go out and I played a gig one time with a songwriter in the round with Byron Hill and Roxy Dean. Byron wrote so many country hit songs for George Strait and Neil McCoy and just everybody in the world, Alabama. Roxy is an absolute riot. So we're playing this gig, and I played Nazi Forever, and Roxy just says, man, you must have gotten a lot of panties thrown at you during that time. And I just laughed and said, yeah, that and Keys. Well, the next night we played, and when I played that song, they had gone to Walmart and bought 3 pairs of the largest white granny panties you'd ever seen in your life. And went, here, this is now. They were throwing this stuff. It was like, oh gosh, I know. People they used to come up and they would do all kinds of things with us. Now they're bringing us cakes and pies and introducing us to their grandchildren. We're taking naps in the afternoon. I mean, things have changed. You didn't get the buffet. We never did that kind of stuff.
It's funny. You mentioned about grandchildren. I've talked to several different artists that have said that they're so thrilled to see younger kids in the audience. And I mean, you see some of these shows where the younger kids are really getting into it. And I probably credit that to the resurgence of vinyl, I guess. But to be able to really tell how music is timeless.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if something was written in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. I mean, and obviously it's all on preference and stuff like that. But it's, to realize that something that was just uber popular in 1976 is just as popular and is resonating here in 2024. It's amazing.
I think one of the things that kind of brought a lot of that around is that if you listen to the music today, there's no melodies. It's all about the artist and to see if they can sing where only dogs can hear. You had the opportunity to sing along from those songs that came from earlier times, in the 70s especially. And I think that that's what the phenomenon of the yacht rock is they discover that they can actually sing along with the songs. It's got a melody to it.
Yeah. Did you ever see the yacht rock? I mean, it wasn't a thing back obviously in the 70s, but did you ever figure it would come back this strong? Because, I mean, they're just hugely popular. I mean, all the cover bands that do the yacht rock thing and everything else, I mean, it's just, you see it all over the place. Did you ever think that might happen?
No, as a matter of fact, the first time that I heard of it, there was a radio show in Los Angeles called Mark and Brian at KLOS. And they were one of the original, what they call dinosaur rock. We call it classics now. Mm-hmm. And so they had me on the show because there was a guy that was impersonating me and had... he was going out doing stuff, so I had him arrested. Well, they said they would go out on the weekends, get on the boat on the ocean, and they would play our music really loud on the boat. And I just cracked up laughing. I said, "You're playing my music really loud?" They said, "Yeah." It's like, we take those songs. And I went, wow, okay, there's a place. And these guys are hard rockers. So, wow. That was kind of cool. The other night playing with Cherie. Okay, she's around the same time period that I was. But here's all these kids out on the audience. I mean, there was a lot younger audience. And they're singing along to Love Is the Answer and Really Love to See You Tonight. And you go, wow, how cool is that?
Got to make you feel so good.
Well, it does. And I tell you what really makes you feel good. And you'll never be able to understand it until it happens to you. But to hear the people singing the songs back to you. I went to the Philippines for the first time in 2000, and they asked me to play certain songs. And some of them I hadn't played at all. I recorded them, just never played them because they weren't popular. And there was one song called Just Tell Me You Love Me that Dan and I had done for a film called Just Tell Me You Love Me. And they asked me to play that one. And so I did. Well, I'm in the middle of this thing, and people are singing that song back louder than I'm singing it with a microphone. And I just stopped and said, "How do you know this song?" And we'll come to find out every school child in Asia knows that song. And it was like, seriously, really?
That's wild.
It is wild.
Right now, looking back at your old 20-something self back in the 70s, would you do this? Would you do this career again? I mean, just looking, I'm thinking how the music industry has changed, and streaming. Yeah,
it's not the same musically. They don't really care about the music. It's all personality driven. And if I could play the same kinds of things, if I could have the same kind of experiences, because again, it's different out there. Yeah, I would. If I had to do it looking at what these kids go through now, no, I would not. I love the music, but as far as the industry concerned, no. The thing is that again, everything changes. But I like to be among the people. The people that have taken. I'll just tell you right now. I'm in my 70s, so I really don't give a damn because nobody's gonna jump out and sign me for anything. But the people that have taken over the music industry, man, I know more about heart surgery than these people know about music. They don't care. It's like they throw things up against the wall, see if it sticks. It used to be they built artists. They don't build artists anymore. They just throw it out there, and there's always one behind you. So we'll find the next one that's more pretty, doing whatever that we can manipulate a little bit more. So I became, like every other artist, very cynical about it all. Because again, when we were coming up, who was king? The kings weren't the musicians. It wasn't the musicians and the artists. It was the disc jockeys. Yep. Those guys were kings. You knew the disc jockey's name almost as much as you knew the artist's name for your local stations and stuff. And that's gone. That's dead.
Question for you though: what if the music thing had never worked out for you way back when? What might John Ford Coley be doing today?
I honestly can't answer that. I know that I was going for a teaching degree in English Lit. I loved medicine. They tried to get me into chiropractic. I don't really know what I would have been doing, actually. I mean, I'd tell people on stage, if Dan and I hadn't connected up, we probably, I'd still be working rodeo and Dan'd still be painting apartments. That's probably about it. So we just really got blessed on this whole thing. I say all the time, at a certain point in my life, God just kind of reached down and kissed me on the head and said, son, go have some fun. And that's what I did.
And I'm glad you did. I'll tell you. The tickets are still available for John Ford Coley's show on November 14th at Ram's Head on Stage. We do have some to give away, too, so you want to follow us on all the places where you can follow us. But ramsheadonstage.com is the place to go to get the tickets. To keep up with all things John Ford Coley, you want to go to johnfordcoley.com. And that'll find out where you're touring and all the new music and what's up in your life.
Plus I also play with an array of artists. We call it Rock the Dock. So with that particular format, it's going to be Ambrosia, sometimes Al Stewart, sometimes Elliot Lurie from Looking Glass, or we used to have Stephen Bishop, used to have Gary Wright all the time traveling with us. And so you would get a wide variety of hits. And it was hits all night long, pretty much.
Wow, you just threw out some names there that were, I'm checking that out.
Peter Beckett from Player, and
Yeah, baby, come back. I'm not. Just don't get me singing because I'm horrible.
Yep. And the funny thing about it is, all those guys can still get up there and play and sing. Nobody's using tracks. We get up and we do it. So I play acoustically by myself the vast majority of the time, just piano and guitar. And they say, well, why don't you play with a band? And I go, because I know I'll show up. That's the deal.
Well, I'll tell you, before we hang up here, of all the songs that you have, either as a solo artist or as a duo, is there anyone that holds like some kind of special meaning for you that you never get tired of playing? Maybe it's something that never got the recognition it deserved. I know you said there were a couple that you have. Is there one that just really does it for you?
It does. That's Soldier in the Rain. It's a semi-classical kind of a song, and that was kind of what I was raised in, was the classical venue, being trained on Bach and Beethoven and Chopin and all those things.
I don't want to take up too much of your time today, but I want to thank you so much for your time this morning and wish you safe travels from Nashville. And once again, November 14th at Ram's Head on Stage. And
can you believe it's November?
I know. The year went by so fast. It really, truly did. I am looking forward to see John Ford Coley. I have never seen you in concert, so I am very looking forward to this. And again, everybody, get your tickets, and let's have a good time on November 14th.
Thank you so much, Farmer. Appreciate it.
All right, take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Years have gone since I was here, and I'm wondering how I differ. Taxi cabs keep rolling by, and a blind man asks for change. And here I stand, a soldier in the rain. Coming home was all I thought of, seeing my family and friends. They say love knows no distance, but the longing never ends. And all along these dreams that possessed my heart never were too plain. And here I stand, a soldier in the rain. I remember years ago, I had so many plans, and now I watch the river flow. Time has brought me here with empty hands. Empty hands. Morning clouds are gathered around, and the streets are full of reflections. A traffic light and the moon still bright, people going in different directions. I've thought about why I'm here, it's just too hard to explain. So here I stand, a soldier in the rain. In the rain. In the rain. In the rain.
This has been a bonus podcast from Ion Annapolis. Please visit us at ionannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Ion Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.